The wind howled, snow swirled, a blinding white sheet against the skeletal remains of the abandoned ski resort. Timberline Lodge, they once called it. Now just Timberline Tomb. Nature was reclaiming its own. Twisted metal, broken chairs on rusted cables, remnants of a forgotten joy. Something moved, a flicker in the shattered window of the main lodge. Or was it just the wind? The mountain held its secrets close. Layers of snow and ice, whispers of tragedies past. Stories the locals told, keeping children away from the crumbling slopes. Stories of those who ventured up, never to return, lost to the mountain's cold embrace. The air itself felt heavy, burdened with an unseen presence, a sense of dread, clinging like frost to the soul. The first ghost was a blur of motion, a figure swishing down the slopes, a crimson scarf, the only splash of color against the monochrome landscape. He appeared at dusk, a phantom carving perfect turns down the deserted mountain. Some say he was a champion racer, his life cut short by a tragic fall. Now he relives his glory days, an eternal loop of victory and despair. His laughter echoed through the empty canyons, a chilling sound that sent shivers down your spine. He was said to be harmless, a spectre content in his solitary domain. But his presence was a stark reminder of the mountain's unforgiving nature, a reminder that even the most skilled could be swallowed whole by the cold white abyss. The second ghost was more tragic. A little girl, her laughter echoing through the halls of the derelict lodge. She clutched a tattered teddy bear, her eyes wide and lost. They say she wandered away from her family, lured by the whispering trees and the promise of adventure. The mountain, however, had other plans. Her laughter, once filled with joy, now held a chilling undertone, a desperate plea for help that never came. Those who heard it felt a pang of sorrow, a deep ache in their hearts. They say she is looking for her family, her small voice calling out in the dead of night, but the mountain holds its secrets tight, and the little girl remains lost in its icy grip. The wind picked up, carrying with it the mournful sound of the lost girl's laughter. It swirled around the dilapidated ski lifts, their chairs swaying rhythmically in the biting wind. A lone figure stood at the base of the mountain, his breath forming a white plume in the freezing air. He was a writer drawn to the abandoned resort by the stories of the ghosts that haunted the slopes. He had come seeking inspiration, a spark to ignite his imagination. But as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the snow, he felt a chill run down his spine. The wind whispered his name, a low, guttural growl that seemed to emanate from the heart of the mountain itself. Fear tightened its grip, cold and unrelenting. He was not alone. Section 5, the Lady of the Lodge. The third ghost was the most terrifying, a woman in a white dress, her face forever frozen in a silent scream. Some say she was a bride left at the altar, driven mad by grief. She wandered the halls of the lodge, her mournful cries echoing through the empty rooms. She was a being of pure anguish, her sorrow bleeding into the very walls of the resort. Her presence was a suffocating weight, a chilling reminder of love lost and promises broken. She was a warning, a spectre of despair, reminding all who crossed her path of the fragility of the human heart. To encounter her was to experience the depths of her pain, a raw, visceral emotion that left you breathless and shaken. Section 6, a glimmer in the darkness. The writer pressed on, drawn deeper into the heart of the abandoned resort. Each step he took crunched loudly in the eerie silence, echoing off the snow-covered path. He could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon him, the air thick with anticipation. Every shadow seemed to move, every gust of wind whispered secrets. The stories were true, he realized. The tales of the haunted resort whispered among locals were not just myths. This place was alive, but not with the laughter and joy of skiers. It was alive with memories, with echoes of the past. It pulsed with a darker energy, fueled by sorrow and regret. The very walls seemed to breathe, exhaling a cold, mournful sigh. He reached the grand lobby of the lodge. Dust covered every surface and the air was thick with the scent of decay. A fire crackled cheerfully in the enormous stone fireplace, casting flickering shadows across the room. It was an odd contrast to the cold, lifeless surroundings. but the logs were untouched, the flames dancing without fuel. It was as if the fire had a life of its own, defying the natural order. The air grew colder, a bone-chilling frost that seeped into his very bones. He saw her then, a figure that seemed to materialize from the shadows. A delicate figure by the window, her back to him. She was almost ethereal, like a ghost from a forgotten time. She was humming a hauntingly familiar tune. The melody was both beautiful and sorrowful, resonating deep within him. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. He felt a chill that was not just from the cold, but from a deep primal fear. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the core, that he was staring at the Lady of the Lodge. The legend had come to life before his very eyes. Section 7. Frozen in Time. He approached cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. As he drew closer, he could make out the intricate details of her dress. It was a wedding gown, once a pristine white, now stained with the passage of time. She turned slowly, her movements jerky and unnatural, like a music box ballerina nearing the end of its cycle. Her face, when it came into view, was not the horrifying visage he had expected. It was a mask of sorrow, etched with a profound sadness that pierced his very soul. A single tear traced a path down her cheek, frozen in time. He felt an overwhelming sense of pity for this lost soul, trapped in her own personal purgatory. He had come seeking horror, but he found only tragedy. Section 8. The Truth Revealed. He reached out a hand, his fingers brushing against the icy surface of her cheek. The coldness was almost unbearable, yet he couldn't pull away. The touch sent a jolt through him, a surge of energy that made him recoil in shock. It was as if he had touched a live wire, the sensation both painful and electrifying. Images flashed through his mind, a torrent of memories that weren't his own. They came in rapid succession, each one more vivid than the last, overwhelming his senses. He saw the woman not as a grieving bride, but as a loving mother, her face filled with joy as she watched her young daughter ski down the slopes. The laughter of the child echoed in his ears, a stark contrast to the silence of the present. He saw the accident, a sickening crunch of metal and bone, and the gut-wrenching scream that tore from the woman's lips. He understood. The horror of that moment was etched into her soul, a wound that would never heal. She wasn't haunting the lodge out of malice or despair, but out of love. Her spirit lingered, bound by the love for her lost child. She was searching for her daughter, her heart forever broken by the loss. Every night she wandered the snowy landscape, hoping against hope to find her little girl. The writer felt a profound sense of sadness wash over him. He had come seeking a story, but he found something much deeper, a tale of love and loss that transcended time. He knew he couldn't help the woman, but he could at least share her story. He could give her the voice she never had, immortalizing her love and pain in his words. He could give voice to her silent grief, and in doing so, perhaps he could bring a measure of peace to her restless spirit. Section 9. No Escape. He backed away slowly, his gaze never leaving the spectral figure. The snow crunched under his feet, each step echoing his growing dread. He felt a cold hand grip his wrist, the chill seeping into his bones. The woman's touch sent a wave of icy fear through him, paralyzing his every thought. Her eyes, once filled with sorrow, now burned with a terrifying intensity, as if they could see into the depths of his soul. She spoke, her voice a raspy whisper that seemed to claw its way up from the depths of his soul, each word a dagger to his heart. "You will not tell," she hissed, her grip tightening like a vice, leaving no room for escape. The room seemed to spin, the cheerful fire in the hearth replaced by an oppressive darkness that swallowed all hope. He tried to pull away, but her grip was like a vice, unyielding and merciless. Her laughter, once filled with the echo of lost joy, now sounded like the screech of a banshee, piercing his very being. He was trapped, ensnared by the same grief that held her captive, a sorrow that knew no end. The mountain had claimed another victim, its icy grip extending beyond the physical, reaching into the very essence of his soul. Section 10. The Mountain Remembers. The abandoned ski resort stood silent once more, the wind whistling through the broken windows. The snow continued to fall, slowly burying the lodge under its pristine blanket. The ghosts remained, their stories woven into the fabric of the mountain itself. The phantom skier forever racing down the slopes, the lost child, her laughter echoing through the empty halls, and the lady of the lodge, forever searching for her daughter, her grief a tangible presence that clung to the very air. The mountain kept its secrets, a silent guardian of the souls lost within its embrace. The writer's tale, however, became another chilling chapter in the legend of Timberline Tomb. A reminder that some stories are better left untold, some places better left undisturbed. The mountain remembers, and it will not be silenced.